All right,
Greetings.
what is going on,
What's
guys?
going on?
Welcome back to Opinion City. Ralph Heinmarch alongside my tag team partner Parmesan Russell and
How are ya?
Sean. Sean, I can tell by the way that we are dressed that something classy is about to happen.
For those of us watching on the YouTubes, we are dressed in the classiest of outfits because this week starts the Monster Factory series where we talk to one person from each Monster Factory or from Monster Factory each week. And this week we have probably one of our classiest guests to ever be involved in the Monster Factory. That is being the one and the only Max Sterling.
Hello.
Max, what's going on?
Hey.
Hello, gentlemen. I gotta say, first off, I love the effort. I love it. You guys are looking classy, and it's that's all I ask.
Listen, we have to try.
That is
We,
how
we
we
have to
roll.
equal the level of class that is, the classy wrestler Max Sterling.
Right. And I believe that you should never outdress your host. So I kept it a little more simple. I have no tie, no tie today.
That's all right.
That's okay. We're
Yeah,
good. Listen.
I didn't want to outshine the hosts. It's like, you know what? They're gonna take this step. I gotta let them shine, so
Well, I appreciate that. We're super excited to have you on the show as the very first Monster Factory guest. So you are
Starting off
number
good.
number one, starting off classy.
hmm
So let's start things right off. Were you always at the Monster Factory, or did you train somewhere else before the Monster Factory?
So I actually trained back in Pilot Point, Texas, in an old abandoned train station
Okay.
building. A gentleman by the name of Knight Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He owned a promotion called XCW.
Mm.
I believe I don't know if he still has a training facility, but I know that he did have it. It was called the Dojo, and
Okay.
he had Athena and Matt Palmer helping out with training at the time,
Mhm.
and but he was great. He definitely took me from knowing absolutely nothing and molded me and tried to shine me up as best as possible. And then I actually stopped wrestling for a little bit.
Oh.
The first it was a rough before, and this is before I became as classy as I am. It was very difficult. Texas, there's a lot more going on in Texas nowadays. Back then there wasn't as much. There's still a decent amount, but I found myself very hard pressed in terms of contacting promoters and making that initial contact to get those bookings started, to ask
Right.
the spot, when can I come in? And with what I do outside of wrestling, I was wanting to take that to the next step, and I just didn't think I could do both. So I actually stopped
Mhm.
wrestling to focus on that. Missed wrestling. I mean, cold turkey. I wasn't watching wrestling.
Oh wow.
I wasn't going to shows to hang out with my friends. I would read updates on stuff, but
Right.
I wasn't watching clips. I wasn't doing any of that. And what happened is one of my buddies just said, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. You should really come to the show on this date. Just come hang out, or at least come out after the show so we can hang out." I was like, "Okay." And that's really all it took.
Right.
It's like stepping back in that atmosphere and just being like, "Whoa, I miss this. I miss the crowd. All of this is great." But it had been so long that I was just like, I don't know if I can still do it. And I had an interesting conversation with somebody who had asked me, they're like, "Okay, so you've done this thing that you wanted to do. You say you miss wrestling. What happened to, you were telling me that you wanted to go train up in Canada at Lance Storm's school." I'm like, "Yeah, I did, but he's always booked up. It's usually a year out.
Right.
I don't know if I want to wait a whole nother year before I can get back into wrestling."
Right.
"Oh, sir, with the nice glass. I see that, Ralph."
Mm.
Listen, gotta keep it classy, man. Gotta keep it
Little
classy.
extra classiness there. We call this class in a glass.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I took that, I listened to what they said, and after I got home, I actually looked it up. I was like, I might as well look up, Lance's schedule. And it's like December 2015 that this is happening.
Right.
And I look up and it said January 2016. And I was like, well, that's way too soon. He had like one spot available. I was like, there's no way I could get what I needed. I didn't even have a passport at that point. But he did have, he does every 3 weeks with like a 1 month in the middle. So I think May was the next session. May 2016, one spot available, email ASAP. And I remember going, like, I went to bed and I was like, I don't know, I should do this. I should email him. If I'm going to do this, like, now's the time. I would totally be able to get a passport.
Right.
I could expedite it and I could go. I have the money. I can figure out flights, figure out everything else. And I went to work the next day and I was just asking people. I was like, hey, if you had an opportunity to do something that you wanted to do, but you needed to act fast, what would you do? And they're like, well, obviously we would do it. Like,
yeah,
if you need to do something, just pull the trigger. So on my lunch break, I just emailed him on my lunch break. I was like, hey, I see you have one spot available. I would love to do it. He emailed me back, did everything I needed to like lock myself in place. And then I was like, okay, I have until May. So that was, this was the end of December. So I was like, I have 5 months to get everything I need ready. I was like, I need to start getting back in shape. I need to, get passport, get my flight, get all that stuff situated.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I basically used that as like my retraining essentially.
Right.
Because I figured if I'm going to get back into it, let's get a little more polish. And it was great. Had a great time there. There's some people I still have a little bit of contact with that I made friends with up there. And started wrestling around Texas. That's when Classy Max Sterling was born. It's coming back from Canada. And I was thinking that maybe I needed to get outside of Texas, because Texas, massive state.
Yeah, sure. Big state.
There's
for
some
sure.
great wrestlers there. It's just hard. It's hard to get out of that state if you're not willing to drive, or if you're not willing to pay for travel.
Right.
Because you have to get to a certain level when people start paying for your transportation to come to shows.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's hard to get outside of Texas, beyond like Oklahoma, Louisiana, the surrounding states at best.
Sure.
And I was just thinking that maybe, I don't know, maybe I go to the East Coast, it's very condensed. A lot of places are close together to try and work. And ironically enough, around the time that I started thinking about that, there was this big seminar being held down in Houston. It may have been San Antonio. But it was like a collection of coaches. Dr. Tom Pritchard was there.
Oh.
And they had an old ref. I'm sorry, I forget his name. A ref from back in the NWA days.
Okay.
Like the early days. And they had a gentleman by the name of Danny Cage.
Danny.
From the Monster Factory. And
we've heard that name before.
Yeah, we have heard that name somewhere.
We kind of know that name.
So I go to the seminar, and it was a good seminar. And there we were splitting into different, each coach was taking a group and doing certain things. And I remember as I was listening to Danny talk, I was like, oh, I've heard this podcast. I heard his podcast with Stone Cold when Stone Cold was doing his podcast. I remember listening to Danny Cage's, and it's just the name just didn't click with me at the time. But as soon as he started talking and talking about people from the Monster Factory and I was like, this all sounds very familiar.
Right.
And then it clicked with me. I was like, oh, I remember that. So I remember after that, the first day, it was a 2-day seminar. I remember that first day, I think I went home, or I went back to the hotel and listened to that podcast again, just to kind of be like, I got to make sure, like, this was definitely him. Right.
Right.
And I had another friend who was also thinking about moving to the East Coast. We both were at that seminar and we talked about it. I mentioned, he was like, I don't know, man. I think I might go out there. I might go to the Monster Factory. I've been looking for a reason to go to the East Coast anyways. I was like, same.
Yeah.
Absolutely the same. Let me,
Yeah.
let's do it together. And unfortunately for me, I had difficulties because what I do outside of wrestling involves licensing. So I had to contact
Right.
the states, and New Jersey was just dragging themselves as long as possible to try to get stuff done.
Oh no.
Because that was probably, that was probably around April or May of 2017 that we
Okay.
had the seminar, and it took me until the end of the year to get my licensing.
Oh jeez.
I was hoping to go by the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I was even contacting like a place to work. Danny was helping me with some of his students that possibly might have a room in there and where they were living, to be like,
Right.
oh, roommate, this guy needs a roommate.
Right.
But I ended up not getting out here until January 2018.
Wow. 2 whole years.
So it was a long time to get from meeting Danny at that seminar. And then, from when I got back into it, from going to Landstorm School in 2016, meeting Danny 2017, and then the beginning of 2018 is when I got out here. And
Wow.
I feel like since I've gotten to the Monster Factory, I've grown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Danny definitely set me up with an opportunity to explore my character, develop my character, and try to figure out exactly who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And the Monster Factory crowd was a great crowd to practice that on, essentially.
They're a great crowd. I've been to multiple shows now. They're a great crowd.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you go to the seminar, you meet Danny Cage, you obviously make a connection there with Danny. He's working to help you out. Moving from Texas to the East Coast, that's a big time move. That's not just like, hey, I'm moving down the street. That's a big time move. So
It's a big deal.
Right.
So what was it about? Because obviously, I mean, you've got the connection with Danny, but what is it about the Monster Factory that draws you in? What entices you to pick up everything you know from Texas and head out to the East Coast and go to the Monster Factory?
Well, yeah, as I said, I was already thinking about going to the East Coast.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But to pick up and just go without any kind of connection seemed a little foolish.
Mm.
So it was like, I need a reason to go. Like I need a place that I can go, or I need to know somebody who's also going, or I need to make a friend who lives out there, just so that somebody who can at least say, hey, here's some promotion, somebody who could at least like guide me a little bit. So meeting Danny, talking about the Monster Factory, being on the East Coast, it was just the perfect opportunity. It was one of those things where it's like, here's a reason and a sign that you should make the move. So just make it.
Right.
So yeah, it was just a matter of, I needed something that said, hey, you're thinking about going to the East Coast. Here's an opportunity to go to the East Coast. And just having a place to train, having a place to work consistently, while you're getting out there and trying to expand.
Right.
It was just, it just worked. It was just, failing on the word I'm trying to look for. it was right place, right time, I guess, is the best way to put it. So it was like, go ahead.
I like the word that you used, opportunity. Because if we've learned anything about the Monster Factory, we've learned anything about Danny Cage.
Yeah.
It seems like this this idea of providing people with an opportunity kind of drives a lot of what he does and a lot of what the Monster Factory does. And opportunity is a word we're very familiar with here because we always talk about missed opportunities.
Yep.
but this opportunity is just a perfect word, I think, for how you described, how everything kind of fell into place for that move.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Danny he's a fair coach for sure. He rewards hard work. he rewards people that puts in effort more than they need to. Obviously, like you should always help out where you can.
Yeah.
One of the first things, one of the moments that always sticks out for me in terms of when I made the move and thinking to myself, I think this was a good decision, is when I got to the Monster Factory. I didn't know anybody
Yeah.
except for my one buddy who got out there a couple months before I did. So it's like it's like going to a new school essentially, moving, which I'm very familiar with. My family moved frequently growing up, so I was definitely used to being the new kid in school.
Right.
And I know how that works. A new kid in school, you're either completely ignored because you're the new kid, no one cares, or you get the attention of people, and it's either going to be good or bad.
Yeah.
Sure.
So when I got there, my goal was, because of how I learned from my trainer in Texas, Knight Davis, is be useful. Find out what you need to do to help out, and then just do it. And the moment that sticks out for me was maybe like the second show that we had out there, post-show cleanup. You know, everybody's doing what they need to do to clean up after the show. Everybody's, you know, but you it's very casual. A lot of people, like, they're talking to their friends while they're doing something, not really doing as much as they could, because they're just like slowly going about things. And I was just there with a push broom, making piles, and then I was grabbing the broom and dustpan, and I was just sweeping it up, because, you know, I don't know anybody. I'm not going to try and like force friendships. Like, I'll meet people, I'll talk to them.
Right.
I was like, hey, let's clean up. This is what I can do. And I was just sweeping up, cleaning up these piles, and out of nowhere, like, somebody like leans in behind me, and he's just like, it was Danny. It was Danny. But what he just came up behind me and leaned in my ear, and he was just like, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing what you should do, and believe me, I'm noticing. Right. And I was like,
that's
okay,
perfect.
You know, because the most frustrating thing when you're doing the things that you want to do is feeling like nobody's watching.
Right.
And you know, there's some students there at the Monster Factory now that I feel like they probably think, hey, you know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I don't think anybody's watching. And it's like, no, I'm watching. I pay attention to what everybody's doing there. When I'm there, I'm always watching. A lot of people will ask me for advice on, like, hey, what can I do to get better at this specific drill or this specific movement that we're learning in wrestling? And I will give them advice, and, you know, I'll pay attention. Are they getting better at it? And if they aren't, I ask them, I was like, hey, are you doing what I need, what I mentioned that you should do to help improve that? They're like, yeah. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, I haven't had time, or hey, I am trying. It's like, okay, good, as long as you're trying, you know. So it's like there's always somebody paying attention, and somebody's always going to notice when somebody's doing more than they need to, and word is going to get back to the people who make decisions. And that's something that I hope a lot of the students at the Monster Factory know, is that just because maybe Danny isn't noticing something that they're doing, somebody is noticing. And if an opportunity arises, there's going to be people that Danny asks, like, hey, who do you think should be in a match tonight, or whatever. When 2019 Turkey Slam, we always had the 5-on-5 elimination match. And I was having the Classy Collective against the OGs. And he knew, he's like, it's going to be you. It's going to be, he had ideas, but there was a fifth slot available. I think actually the fourth and fifth slot were still available. And I told him, I was like, I think Marvelous 100% should be the next guy. Marvelous was doing really good. He was putting in a lot of work, and I thought he was talented enough to be in a position where he can get a little bit of a highlight in a match like that. And there was another guy. He doesn't wrestle anymore. He ended up having a baby with his girlfriend, and he chose to focus on his family. But he was the other guy that I was like, he's got to be our fifth guy, because he was
Yeah.
somebody who was definitely improving in the ring. He had the energy, and I felt like he just needed an opportunity to be in a position to be in front of a crowd in an important match. He ended up getting injured, but luckily we had somebody else return, so we were able to slot that person into that fifth spot. But it's just an example of how sometimes Danny's going to ask one of the wrestlers, like, "Hey, I'm not exactly sure who should be in this position, or I need somebody who can wrestle or do this." And he's going to ask people like me, Goldie, the people that have been there for a while, what their opinion is.
Right.
Someone's always watching, so the opportunities are there as long as people are putting in the work and showing that they're ready for those kind of opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting the way you describe that, because one of my favorite moments during the Monster Factory TV show, which, I'm not sure a lot of people might have picked up on this moment, but I thought it was really important. And it kind of goes along with exactly what you said. When Danny's giving Mimi advice before her WWE tryout, the last thing he tells her to do is sweep the ring. Always sweep the ring. And I thought to myself, that's brilliant, because that's the kind of stuff that they, like you said, there's always somebody watching.
Yeah.
And they see that. And it's great that you told that story that like you were just sweeping, because it just fits so well.
Yeah. I mean, and Mimi obviously grabbed people's attention while she was there. She had her moment up there. She was signed for a little bit. So she, I don't know if she swept the ring, but obviously whatever she did in terms of being useful, not standing around, is basically what happened. But yeah, the advice is there. Sometimes it's hidden.
Yeah.
It might be hidden in like an angry tirade that Dan has. I mean, anybody has seen him yell at us or been very stern with us.
Yeah.
But there's always something in there. You just have to figure out what it was.
Right.
There's always a lesson to be learned.
So, how did you come up with the classy wrestler character? Was there a moment or moments that inspired you to create the classy wrestler that you are?
So, I was trying to think back to things that stood out for me and things that I enjoyed. And one thing that always stood out to me growing up is anytime I saw somebody in a suit, for me personally, as a kid, as a teenager, I would see that person and just go, okay, they're headed somewhere important.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You don't dress up like that unless you're doing something important. Like they have something they're headed to go do.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, a suit was just always a symbol of status, I guess, essentially, is the way of putting it.
Right.
A person in a nice suit, in a good suit, just looks like they're headed somewhere important.
Sure.
And so I loved dressing up. Prom, church, weddings. Like for me as a teenager and as a young adult, for me, it was like, that is something that I enjoy. I love having a reason to dress up nice. So if I love dressing up nice, is there a way I can turn that into a character?
Yeah.
And so I just felt like if I could take the idea of somebody who thinks suits are the epitome of how a man can dress, and that you have to dress nice at all times, that maybe I could take a character similar to other characters we've seen in the past, but maybe not so much focused on the money aspect.
Yeah.
And more just about how you present yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always tried to have Max Sterling about. I've never wanted it to be seen as like, oh, it's another one of those like Richie Rich gimmicks.
Yeah.
I've always wanted it to be as like, no, he just loves suits. He loves dressing.
He just loves to dress up.
Like if you can wear a suit, you must be important,
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I just kind of took that and just tried to play with that the way I could. And Monster Factory is where I really got to develop that, because Danny was impressed with my promo abilities at that seminar in Texas. And one of the first things he did out here, when I got out here after a couple matches, he started giving me mic time.
Nice.
Before or after a match, he was just like, "You're going to get on the mic, do your thing, try to get your character over and established, and let's see how the crowd reacts." So I contribute a lot of my promo practice to just the fact that Danny was always giving me a position to put a mic in my hand and let me do what I could, sink or swim. If there wasn't a specific idea, he was always just like, "These are the points. If anything, it was these are the points you need to hit. Other than that, it was like, hey, do your thing."
Correct. Yes.
So,
I love that you made the suit a prop. People will use titles as props or things like that, but you've made the suit this prop that it's kind of just as important as the character is. It's a really cool gimmick.
Yeah,
100%. And there's still so much untapped potential in the whole suit as a prop. It's just trying to get to that point where you can start focusing on things like that, or being in the right feud or the right storyline to where that's something that can possibly be emphasized.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of potential still with the character, and I'm currently in a position where I'm trying to figure out how to evolve the character a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. So let's turn the clock back a little bit here, and let's go back to a little classy Max Sterling back in the day. So how does little classy Max become a how do you get into the world of professional wrestling? How do you become a fan of wrestling? How does all that classiness start?
So my earliest wrestling memory is watching TV at my parents are separated. They divorced when I was a baby. So around 5 or 6 years old, my mom was dating this gentleman named Bob. And we would be over at Bob's place, and Bob was a wrestling fan. So I got to see wrestling. I got to see Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
I went on a big thing about just finding movies he was in, because I needed to watch more of him, because my mom wasn't a wrestling fan. If I wasn't at Bob's, I never saw wrestling. But I remember seeing Hulk Hogan wrestle. I remember seeing Ted DiBiase. I remember thinking Jake the Snake Roberts. I was oh man, that's great,
Yeah.
So when we ended up, that was in Arizona. I was born in Arizona. We ended up moving to Oklahoma.
Okay.
And wrestling just vanished. Like I said, my mom was not a fan. I never saw wrestling for the longest time after that. It wasn't until we ended up moving because we moved a lot in Oklahoma. We ended up settling in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
When I was about 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm. And I just remember mom got cable. We had cable after years and years of not having cable. Mom had cable. And I remember staying up late one night flipping through the channels, and I remember the episode. I stumble across WCW. Oh.
And I see Hulk Hogan in the ring.
Uh-huh.
Wearing, his beard is dyed weird. He's got this black shirt. He's got this black shirt that says NWO on it.
Right. You're like, am I watching?
And I'm listening. I see him. I watched it. I stopped immediately. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And then I realized he's a bad guy, and I was like, "Oh no, he's a bad guy! What happened?"
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Missed out on a whole lot. Yeah, a whole lot.
now he's a bad guy. There's all these people in the ring with him. What is happening? And then all of a sudden, there's all these figures walking from the stands, all wearing this mask and like
Right.
coats.
Right.
And it was the episode where there's all these fake Stings walking to the ring, and they start. Everybody freaks out. The announcers are putting it over huge, like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
They're hitting them as they get in the ring, and they're falling away, and they're like, "Oh, these aren't real. These are impersonators." And then Sting drops from the rafters that repels down from that rope in the ring, unhooks himself, and somebody notices him, and he just clears house.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he just took on a ring full of dudes. This guy is awesome.
Cleared the floor. Yeah.
He cleared. I was like, he had a baseball bat, and he just started dropping dudes.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm in because I'm upset that Hogan's a bad guy and he needs to be punished.
Yeah.
Oh, Sting's the guy that can do it. Awesome. And then I think during a commercial break, or maybe it was the next week, where I was like, I got to find this show again.
Yeah, exactly.
I ended up flipping around, and I found WWE, and went, oh, I have two shows. Mm-hmm. I learned about the quick change back between, just jump back to the previous episode, and I would just jump back and forth between those.
Right.
And I would always have to keep the volume low because my mom went to bed early, and she was always like,
Same.
"You need to go to bed."
Same.
So if she heard me get excited, like if I was like, "Oh, got him," she'd be like, "You need to go to bed." I'd just hear it from upstairs, and I'd go, "Oh, all right."
I would sneak out late at night because I would have most kids have a curfew like 9 a.m. Raw would start at 9, so I would wait to hear my parents go to bed. I would wait till the door clicks, and then sneak out with a little Jello cup and turn on Raw, and then watch the rest of Raw.
Yeah. I would just. My mom would go to bed, and she's like, "You better be in bed in the next hour." And I'm like, "Yeah."
Right.
And then I would turn the lights off, turn the volume down low, and try not to get overly excited.
Yep.
And I would just watch. I would watch Raw, and I would watch WCW Nitro. But living in Oklahoma, I never thought wrestling was an option for me. Watching wrestling, I was like, "This is great, man. That would be so cool to do." But I live in Oklahoma. I didn't know about searching for schools online at the time.
Yeah.
I was just like, I live in Oklahoma. I don't know about anything. There's no option. There's no possibility for me.
Right.
But I, again, that's the weird how certain memories stick out. We were leaving a Cece's Pizza.
Oh God.
And the car parked in front of our car. I guess it had gotten there after we had already arrived. As we left, I see on the a sticker on the back of this car in front of us, and it said had www.oklachamp.com, and it was for a promotion in Oklahoma. I think at the time it was Oklahoma Championship Wrestling. I think it ended up becoming Tornado Pro Wrestling.
Oh, okay.
But it was based. Of course, I went home and I looked up the website because I was like, "Is this a wrestling thing? Can I see? Can I see local wrestling?
Yeah.
Am I going to see local wrestling?" And I found out, oh, they are in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Perfect.
And this was maybe 99, 2000, maybe.
Right.
No, this was definitely after that. This is like 2002, 2003.
Okay.
And so I started going to these shows. I told my buddy, I was like, "Hey, you got to come to see this show. It's like local wrestling." I found out about another promotion that was like a little outside of Tulsa in a small town called Sapulpa. I would try to make those shows just to try to see some more of these, local guys wrestling. And I started talking to my buddy. I was like, I think I'm gonna try to see if they have a school. Like, I don't know if they have a school, but I'm gonna try to see if I can go to wrestling school. Like, this would be cool. Like, I didn't think I'd ever have the opportunity to go to wrestling school.
Right.
I emailed them. I was in the process of getting ready to move to Dallas to go to school for what I currently do, which is massage therapy. I was going to go to Tulsa or Dallas for a massage school, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, "Mom, I might stay at this wrestling thing is if this is a good spot, I'm staying.
Right.
I'm not. I'll just do what I'm doing and then do this. Um, I met with the people. It just didn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't seem right. They not that they have to like sell me on something. It's not like I was trying to be. I didn't wanted to be sold something. I didn't need them to like, you
Yeah.
know, be a car salesman with like a big pitch. But it was just
Mm-hmm.
very. It was just very like, yeah, here's this, here's that. But it wasn't. There was like no excitement behind it. Not that he needed to be excited, but it was like instead of just me, like just saying, "Hey, yeah, so we do this, we do that, we
Yeah.
train these days." It was just very like low energy. It was like, "Yeah, well, hey, we kind of train here on these nights if you want." But yeah, this is very lackadaisical. There wasn't
Sounds
a
kind of
lot.
boring.
Right. There just wasn't a lot of there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm in trying to get me as a student. Again,
Right.
not that I need someone to be, oh hey man, love to see you, can't wait to see you, should come by. It just didn't seem like the right fit. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should just go move to Dallas. I'll focus on massage school and then maybe I can revisit this because the plan was originally to move back to Tulsa to after I was done with massage school.
Right.
Plans change. But yeah, it wasn't until let's see, I found out there was a promotion in the Dallas area that I started watching. I started attending shows. Again, still wasn't thinking because I was focused on massage school. I was focused on my massage career. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is an opportunity for me. I was like, let me just watch this. Let me just enjoy this as a fan.
Yeah.
Maybe if I feel like I can make it work, I will try to contact somebody. And I ended up trying to reach out to a wrestler on MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Wow.
boy.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Throwback. Jeez.
right. He didn't respond. Of course, he probably was like, "What is this fan doing? Asking me about
Yeah.
wrestling."
Yeah, sure.
Who's this guy?
Yeah, like who's this random dude?
He's not on my top 8 friends.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
He's at my top 8.
So again, it just moved to the back burner, and then I started thinking, okay, well, now let's start. I found this school. Now let's start searching online where there's other schools, and I found out, hey, there's lots of schools in the Texas area.
Yeah.
I might need to move, because that's the one school that I knew of in Dallas, the Dallas area at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't revisit until much later. Because again, for me, it was like, moving. I just started my massage career. I just had built up my clientele. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
If I move, I'm starting all over again. And that just, for me, it seemed very risky.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it on the back burner, forgot about it, started to revisit it again. And that's when I discovered Knight Davis out in Pilot Point, which is just a small town about 40 minutes outside of Dallas. It's actually right next to Denton, which is
Okay.
the North Texas University is based in Denton.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a small town right outside of Denton. But I discovered Knight Davis. I discovered about his wrestling shows he used to have. He was still having wrestling shows, but very infrequently. And I just remember I was at a point where I was either going to do wrestling or I was going to get into martial arts because that was another big thing that I was always a fan of.
Okay.
And I had found the martial arts school. I had attended a couple of classes for free as a way of them just saying, hey, come try it out, see if it's for you. And because I had sent an email to Knight Davis, and I was like, okay, if I hear from him, I hear from him. I was doing all these. I went to attend some of these martial arts classes, and I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I haven't heard back. Obviously, wrestling isn't meant to be because I haven't heard back from them. And I think it was the week that I was going to be signing up, I get an email back from Knight Davis, and he's just like, you know what? I'm honestly not looking for another student, but if you're serious about this, this is where we're located. Let's talk in person and let me see what you're about.
Right.
And Knight's very, very old school. The way he was brought up was very old school. And he told me when I met him, I get to this small town in Pilot Point. I see this abandoned train station, like not abandoned, but like it was a former train station stop for
Right.
I think when they would carry supplies and store supplies. So they had a space marked out for the ring and a little area around where they could have space around the ring to do stuff outside the ring. And I
Yeah.
just met with him, and he told me, he was just like, "I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I'm very protective about this business. I love professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to make sure that if this is something you want to do, that you're going to do it."
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "If you agree to do this, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you past what you think your limits are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to see what you're made of. I'm going to try and get you to the point where you quit, because if you quit, then this isn't for you. Then you don't want this.
Yeah.
If you quit,
Yeah.
you don't want this. And that's good, because I don't want you here if you don't want this," which, again, very old school tradition.
Right.
I'm sure we've all read biographies from wrestlers where they talk about these, having it very difficult in their training because they
Yeah.
they don't want just anybody coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back on it, he pushed me, but I don't think he did anything to like force me out. He wasn't like trying to get me to quit. He was trying to make me go through a lot of calisthenics, a lot of exercise,
Yeah.
to see if this was something I wanted to do. I remember the first couple of days, he pushed me really hard, all these calisthenics, all these exercises, and I'm like leaning over, breathing heavy, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Are you still good?" And I'm like, yeah, whatever you need.
Yeah.
I'm ready. And I'm just like breathing heavy. Like in my mind, there's probably like in the back of my mind, there's probably a part of me that says, "Okay, I don't know if I can keep going, but I'm going to do what I need to show him." And,
Right.
but he recognized that, and he just looked at me and he was like, "You're done for the day. Good job. We'll see you tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Again, it's like when you have that sign of somebody who's paying attention and
Right.
sees your effort. And I was like, I knew I picked a good school out there in Texas. And like I said, I had to do a lot of work, and it was a vote for it was a group vote for whether I got I think it was about a month, like 4 to 6 weeks of just doing outside of the ring,
Mm-hmm.
calisthenics, basic things. And I remember he put it to a vote for everybody that was currently training there. And he just said,
wow.
"Hey guys, all of you have worked with him outside and have pushed him and made him like with exercises and whatnot." He's like, "Now's the time. Do we think he's ready? Do we think he has earned the right to step into the ring?"
Right.
And, we went down the line, and everybody was like, I mean, once I learned he was driving from Dallas every training night.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And
Jeez.
he was like, that was
That's
enough
right.
effort.
Commitment.
He's like, that enough for me was enough effort. And he doesn't,
Yeah.
he's not dragging behind or slacking off when he's here. Like, he's putting in the
Right.
work. And, so then it was like, all right, now you can get in the ring. Now you can learn wrestling.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's basically the journey of being a fan, loving it, and then just, like, slowly like stumbling into it. And
Right.
I've told Knight multiple times, like, if you never emailed me, I probably would just be doing martial arts somewhere.
Right.
And like,
Right.
yeah, maybe that would be fun, and maybe I could be able to legitimately hurt people in weird
Yeah.
ways. But instead, I am able to sports entertain people,
Right.
Yeah.
and invoke reactions. So
You put aside all your Rex Kwon Do and
Right,
right.
yeah.
Awesome.
So, how is the Monster Factory different from other training facilities that you've worked for, and how is Danny Cage as a coach versus other coaches that you've worked for?
Well, I think it's hard to say how. I mean, unless you're talking about Monster Factory as a promotion, as a school, it's kind of hard to say when you haven't been to like other schools to know how they function.
Right.
But in terms of as a promotion, um, Monster Factory definitely has um, a good idea of what they're trying to do in terms of storylines.
Right.
And I think what's probably different is the fact that because it's mostly Monster Factory students and trainees, is that
Yeah.
Danny does leave a lot of ideas up to us.
Nice. Okay.
In the sense that if you have an idea, come talk to him about it. If he likes it, he might try to incorporate it.
Nice.
If he likes it, but your idea isn't necessarily well thought out, he said, well, we can do that, but let's change these things.
Right.
And in terms of the storylines that do happen, he has a general idea of how he wants storylines to go, but a lot of the in-ring segments, a lot of post-match shenanigans, he will give a general idea, but he wants us to basically succeed or fail of our own accord. Like if we have ideas, he doesn't give us a lot of bullet points for like a promo. Unless it's a very specific point in a storyline where he needs specific things to happen, but it's never like, here's a script. It's you guys need to do this. This is where we're headed.
Right.
You need to take the fans on that journey. So figure out how you need to do that and then make it happen. And then afterwards, he's always like, I liked this. This didn't really work. I think you guys, he would just give his critiques of those things.
Right.
So I guess I would say there's a little bit of freedom for those of us that have specific storylines going on in terms of taking that to the next step. But he will correct you if something didn't come off well, and he will say, hey, that did not go as well as you thought it did.
Yeah.
And Danny Cage, I feel like I said earlier, he's very fair, and he does reward hard work, and he does reward effort. People that go out there, do what they need to do in all aspects, not just whatever needs to happen on a show, outside of the ring, outside of the show, outside of training, in training. He's paying attention to all that stuff.
Right.
He's constantly telling people like, hey, you need to do these things. And it's a matter of people realizing, okay, I'm doing these things, but what else am I not doing?
Yeah.
To start getting noticed more. So it's an all around thing. I think people tend to want to focus on one or two things and think that that's enough. And I think some of them find out fast. Some of them are still struggling to learn that it's not you can't just be a good looking guy who's good at wrestling. You got to put in effort outside of wrestling, because there's all matters. There's all factors and manners to doing things. Because he wants us to realize that you need to be useful in all aspects. If you're not going to be wrestling, what else can you do? If you're not on wrestling on the show, what else can you do? What else are you willing to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we've noticed that in the podcasting world too, where we can't just be two good-looking guys who do a podcast.
Can't be our dapper guys doing the old dapper shtick. It's not that easy.
Yeah, you gotta have a nice intro, as we saw.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's interesting the way you talk about Danny, because the way you talk about him is, exactly how he came off during the Monster Factory series on Apple TV.
Yeah.
You're kind of reinforcing, that this is who Danny really is, and that Monster Factory series was a really sort of emotional, interesting journey for the fans.
Great show.
To really kind of get a look at things. And talking a little bit about the Monster Factory TV series, I know you weren't necessarily one of like the main focuses on the show, but we did
Right.
get to see you during the series. I know there was a moment where they caught you eating.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, great moment.
There's two great moments. There's one that's very obvious and one that's in the background where I just have my meal prep Tupperware
Yeah.
out,
Well,
putting food in my
yeah.
mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, though, what was it like? Going through that time period with the cameras always there, and what was it like going through that series for you?
So for me personally, I definitely had a very uh, weird time in the sense that
Oh.
um, at the time I was very upset that I was not one of the featured wrestlers.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
Understandable.
for whatever reason,
Yeah,
Sure.
I felt, I think if I'm being completely honest, I felt like I had a very interesting story that was worth telling.
Right.
Um, and I felt like I had put in a lot of hard work, to get a position like that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the analogy I think that Danny's used before, and I didn't really come to terms with it until
Okay.
post post recording, like once they were done filming. But it's like, you get the director, like there's a script
Right.
and there's roles that need to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't get cast for a big role, but you got a supporting role or something else, you still have a role
Yeah.
and you still have to do your role as best as possible. It was the sense of like, the directors and the people involved felt like these were the stories they wanted to tell for the first season that were important.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that if there's not the potential for future seasons, meant that there were other stories that could be told.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was a weird thing for me. There was, I think I had told myself, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do great in everything I do.
Yeah.
And I just hope that it gets caught on camera.
Yeah,
And
sure.
maybe when they're reflecting back on it, they'll be like, oh, this was a really good moment. And there was a lot of times where, it wasn't,
Yeah.
recording wasn't always nonstop every day. Like from start to beginning of training, it was like, we record things we need to, we record the people we're focusing on,
Yeah.
we record just some B-roll stuff that we might use.
Right.
But I mean, I can remember specifically early on, we had a promo, an in-ring promo night where we all got paired up, and it was, hey, you're cutting a promo on whatever your opponent. Incorporate your opponent, but you can cut your promo on anything as long
Right.
as you factor in like who your opponent is, who you're paired with. He's like, but the caveat is, after you guys are done, you're going to cut each other's promos to the best of your ability.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Which was like the
That's
interesting thing. He's like,
crazy.
can you, after just hearing what they did, can you take their idea and maybe make it better, or at least repeat it back? And
Yeah.
Wild.
I will say 100%, I killed it that night.
Nice.
My promo was probably
Nice.
the best promo I've ever cut. And then even my opponent, even the guy I was paired with, after I was done cutting his version of his promo, he even told me, he's like, you took the idea that I had and you made it a lot better. I had other people tell me.
Nice.
Like, I believe Danny even said, he's like, I think you cut his promo better than your promo.
Wow.
But it was one of those cases of, hey, cameras weren't rolling.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop me,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Hey, maybe they'll see me cutting a promo and go, wow, maybe we need to pay attention to this guy more often.
Yeah.
But like, that was a big moment that stood out for me. It was like every time I had an opportunity at training to do something good on a drill, I was just like, hey, maybe they catch this on tape, maybe they don't. But all I can do
Right.
is do the best that I can.
Yeah.
And maybe someone will go, man, this Max dude's killing it. Maybe we need to pay attention to him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's how the villain episode where he was explaining heel and babyface.
Right.
I mean, that may have been how that came about, because I was contacted a couple days before they needed to film that and asked if I was available. So that may have been a case of like, we need somebody that can be the person that we use to describe what a heel is.
Right.
And I was chosen for that. So for me, that's a win, because I do feel like I'm the best.
Yeah, it is. I'm
the best heel at the Monster Factory. So I don't think
absolutely.
there's anybody there who can be a better heel than me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so it was a weird time for me personally. I was just very angry at the whole thing. But like I said, I realized afterwards, it was like, hey, look, it's a case of like, you know what? If you're doing what you need to do, it's not your time, but it might be later. It might be soon.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I realized, and that was a lesson that I needed to learn. I always try to figure out what the lesson to learn in like every aspect of life, like a failed relationship, anything. I try to look at like, what was the lesson for that period of time that I was supposed to learn. And my lesson for the filming of the show was, you may not be the main character right now, but as long as you do what you need to do, someone's going to notice, and you will get your time. You will get your time in the sun.
Absolutely.
Get your time in the spotlight. And so yeah, that's how I'm trying to live in terms of like the wrestling world. It's like, all I can do is do what I need to, what's asked of me, and try to go above and beyond, and try to showcase myself as a person who can be used in pretty much any aspect. And as a heel, that's how I try to sell myself to promoters, is like, I can be whatever kind of heel you need. I can fill that role. If you need me to help get somebody over, I will get them over. If you need somebody that can get reactions from the fans and get them to make some noise, I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of big showcases, your big Mania-esque show is coming up in a few weeks. Does the Classy Wrestler have any plans for Turkey Slam?
Yes. After last year, I have dubbed myself Mr. Turkey Slam.
Nice. Nice.
I have been in what I feel always a premier match at Turkey Slam.
Okay.
And this year, I will be in the 5-on-5 elimination tag.
All right.
So,
very cool.
You know, I think I mentioned the Classy Collective.
I was just going to say, are they going to be making a big comeback, Classy Collective?
No, I don't think so. I am going to be assisting upstanding Dylan Mesh.
Okay.
In his seemingly never-ending rivalry with Mr. Sangro. So I believe Mr. Mesh has a couple of friends that he's brought in, and he asked me and my assistant Mike Z to be number 4 and 5. Given my track record, I think it was a smart decision.
I just want to say his name is Zyko Me.
Zyko Me is an imposter, and his buddy Stax Merling, they tried to make a mockery of us.
I know. I've seen it before. I saw it live. You know.
Stax Merling has shown his face before, and he was caught singing karaoke at a show.
Imposter.
And everybody thought that was me, and I had to tell them that was not me. No. I would not be caught dead wearing those pants.
Yeah, those are some pretty extreme pants that person was wearing. You know, it's
not classy. Yeah, no, it's definitely not Zykel Me. It's definitely going to be my assistant Michael Z. So. But we're going to be in that match. I believe Twitch's team is going to be Unstable, returning Getty Cahoon, Michelle, Kodiak, and I believe their 5th may still be up in the air, which I'm not happy about. because
Oh,
that leaves a lot of mystery.
mystery partner.
It
That leaves
does.
a lot of mystery.
It's never
but
good when there's a mystery involved.
after
Throws you off your game.
after the last TRL that we had, and meeting the other two participants,
A big 2-hour spectacle.
it was longer than expected. Yeah.
Yeah.
But seeing Ethan Wild and his protege, I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to have just the team we need to get things done and bring home the W.
Do it.
Very cool.
Still, well, maybe we'll have a fancy team name. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
still up in the
Maybe. I
air.
mean, you never know.
I
Never know.
do like the sound of upstanding class.
Ooh,
Oh.
that's good.
so-
That's yeah.
We'll
Wow.
see.
Hey,
Yeah.
Book it now. Yeah.
Book it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Very cool.
yeah, that's the big match that I'll be a part of, and that's always one of the premier matches is the 5-on-5 elimination.
That's awesome. Very cool. So, before we go to break, we actually have a one of our listeners has written in a question for you, and so we'd like to
Let's go.
throw that out there.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Well, I
Let's
know
go.
it's going to be a classy answer no matter what.
Classing it up. Classing it up. You got this.
Yes. So one of our viewers, Matthew Rodriguez, watching on YouTube, asks the question.
Shout out to Matt.
Hey Max, question: do you have friends that are on WWE, on NXT, or the main roster, male and female?
Ooh,
an
good
interesting
question,
question.
Matthew.
So obviously, Luis used to be the trainer. Like I said, at least used to help Danny with training at the Monster Factory.
Right.
I wouldn't say me and Luis are friends. Like we got to know each other a little bit in his time there before he got signed.
Right.
So there is a referee down at NXT, Felix Fernandez.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure like if that's his like official name for WWE as a referee.
Right. Right.
But he used to be Sammy Miami in Monster Factory.
Okay.
He was the original assistant, believe it or not.
Okay.
He was the original assistant.
The OG.
Very cool.
I had
Very
an
good.
assistant. I had an assistant in the end of 2018 into 2020, and he was the original assistant. That was a period where I was like, if I can find somebody that can be an assistant type role, or
Yeah.
depending on their size and their physique, is like either maybe they'll be a heater or maybe they'll just be somebody that's just there. I was like, but they would be like an assistant role is how
Yeah.
I always saw that. And
Yeah.
Sammy was one of those guys that was putting in the work and trying to work hard at that training and doing what he needed to do to try to improve and earn a spot to start wrestling on shows. And I remember just asking him and bringing like not only, I don't even think I directly asked him. I think I just kind of mentioned it in passing because we became friendly.
Right.
And he was just like, I would do that. He's like, I would do that 100%.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
he started throwing out ideas. We started throwing out ideas. I was like, oh, he's on board.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
He was ready to. It was definitely a case of like he was ready to take an opportunity and run with it.
Yeah.
And he stepped up as my assistant, and it was definitely a comedy role for sure that he
Oh yeah.
excelled at, and doing that earned him the ability to start wrestling on shows, and then that's when he was able to be my assistant but also start wrestling and develop his own character.
Nice.
So yeah, it's been a while since I've talked to Sammy directly, but yeah, I guess it would just be those two. There's nobody that I'm like super friendly with where I could
Right.
pick up the phone and say, hey buddy, what's going on?
Yeah. Right.
There's people that you meet in passing, and but I would say the closest person to that would probably be Sammy. I guess Felix, the referee in NXT.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Matthew, for the question. And with that, we are going to take a short break while you check out this message from our sponsor. And when we come back, we are going to have our main event, our top 5. Before we get to the video, we just want to wish our good friend Larry Peace a happy birthday. Larry is at home.
Happy birthday, Larry.
Happy classy birthday, Larry.
Have a classy birthday.
Yeah. Yes, he's at home watching his Eagles stomp on those Dallas Cowboys. So, Larry, happy birthday. And we will be right back here on Opinion City.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Introducing Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, your ultimate destination for all things wrestling nostalgia. At Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, they don't just sell items, they curate memories. Whether you're a fan of the classic era or modern showdowns, they've got something for everyone. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles sells DVDs, books, magazines, action figures, and so much more. So stop on by Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, where every piece tells a story and every fan becomes a part of the legacy. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is conveniently located inside Mother Tucker's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 566 North Reading Road in Ephrata, PA. Stop on by Thursday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Give them a call at 717-405-0153 or find them on social media at Ref Larry's WC. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is a proud sponsor of the Opinion City podcast. And now, back to the show.
All right. Welcome back to Opinion City, and we'd like to thank Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles for being a proud sponsor of the Opinion City podcast. If you would like to be a sponsor, please send us an email at opinioncitypod@gmail.com.
And with that being said, it is now time.
It's
for
time.
our main
event.
Yes.
This week is a bit different. Our classy guest here thought, holidays are coming up. I like to bake. Let's do top 5 favorite baked pies. Why not?
Brilliant.
Why not?
Absolutely brilliant.
Amazing.
I have never been on board with the top 5 like I am with this one.
It's
I'm
relatable.
on board.
Everybody
is.
loves pie. Everybody loves pie on the holidays. So
Exactly.
and I do enjoy liking. I bake pies, or mostly when I see family or when I go to someone's house for the holidays.
Nice.
I always like to bake a pie and bring it.
Nice.
Never come empty-handed. Never show up to an event empty-handed.
No, never.
That's classy.
That's
I gotta
very
say.
classy.
That's very classy.
Let's get into the class with your top 5.
Okay.
Number
I want
5.
some pie.
So number 5, a classic, cherry pie, specifically with a lattice topping.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
All
know
right.
what? There's ways to do pies, and then there's classy ways to do pies.
Yes.
If you're
The lattice
if
is
you're
the
not
way.
making that pie without the lattice, what's
The lattice is the
point?
move. It's the
Seriously.
move.
There is a handful of pies that really excel with the lattice, and I believe the cherry pie is one of those pies.
And this may just be a rumor, but I've heard it's the lattice that gets the girls.
That might be
I've
it.
heard that rumor.
That might be it. Yeah.
I don't
going
know
that-
personally, but I've heard the rumor.
That goes that extra step. I've definitely shown up to a house with the lattice, and the ladies have been like, "Oh, with the lattice,
Yeah.
The
with
lattice.
the lattice." So yeah, the lattice gets the girls. Gentlemen. Remember that.
Awesome. Always enjoy a good cherry pie.
Number 4.
All right.
Again, another classic specifically for Thanksgiving. A
Ooh.
pumpkin pie. Again,
Oh.
specifically with the ginger snap crust.
Ooh.
That's
You
another
gotta
level.
take some. You
Another
gotta take
level.
the ginger snaps. You got to take the ginger
Classing
snaps.
it up a little
push 'em
bit.
up, you got to make that your.
Wow.
You got to make that your crust.
Man,
There it is, dude.
every one of these pies so far has just been
It's
just
not,
that little bit over the edge. Like it's
You gotta
it's,
have-
the
each one has
classy
a little
touch.
twist so far, a little
It's-
twist.
Oh,
It's easy to just say, "Oh, a cherry pie. Oh, a pumpkin
Yeah.
pie." It's
Yeah,
another
right.
thing to be very specific with the additions.
The lattice, the crust,
Yeah.
layers.
Number
Yeah.
3 has a very special place in my heart.
Okay.
Anybody can actually go out and buy this. This is actually a, surprised to say it, a store-bought pie.
Oh.
However,
Wow.
however,
No, wait. Yeah.
it's you could try to replicate it, but I don't feel it will ever reach the level of what they have.
Okay.
It is Marie Callender's chocolate satin pie.
Oh.
Oh, you are correct, sir.
Correct.
Marie Callender's
Absolutely.
knocks it out of the park.
Marie
but-
Callender's makes some great pies.
And the
Some
reason
great
why
pies.
the reason why this is special for me is when I was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was actually a Marie Callender's restaurant.
What?
Wow.
I
where-
would go there
where
every
you could just
day.
eat. And the best part is they had a Sunday brunch, which was amazing.
Oh,
Nice.
sure.
And when you signed up for their you got a free slice of any pie on your birthday. So
Nice.
I looked forward
Hell
to
yeah.
my postcard from Marie Callender saying, please
Mhm.
join us and have a free slice of pie on us. And I would always get the Marie Callender's chocolate satin pie. When
Awesome.
you get that fresh at the restaurant, it's untouchable. It's
Well, and-
so decadent.
And what's interesting about that is I heard that Marie Callender's in Swahili means classy broad.
There
So
you go.
That makes perfect sense that you would
sense.
pick. Yeah,
It all makes sense.
It's
It
all
It
making
does.
sense now, you
it
know?
all comes back around. I love it.
So this next one is anybody from the South, maybe specifically Texas, they'll understand this.
Okay.
It is going to be a bourbon chocolate pecan pie.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
Jeez.
Gotta have the
Amazing.
bourbon in there. Gotta have the bourbon.
Now, is this one from a store or is this one homemade?
Oh no, you gotta make this.
Okay.
You gotta
Okay.
make this.
So yeah, I used to have an uncle that lived in New Mexico, and they grew pecans, and they would ship them to us every
Awesome.
year, like couple pounds and
Couple
but
pounds?
yeah, because it I
Jeez.
mean that a couple pounds will get you through a year. You
I
know,
would
sparse
say.
them out here
I
and
would
there,
say.
but no, I've never had that. I've never had that variety of pecan pie, so I'm very interested. That sounds amazing.
It's great. I mean, I love.
Now, is that
I
with the
love-
lettuce?
No.
No,
the,
no
pecan
lettuce.
pie,
Okay.
no.
The chocolate pecan pie. The pecans are basically, if you want to decorate, you can. What I usually do is I will layer the pecans. I will stack the pecans on top of the chocolate pie,
Okay.
Yeah.
so that when they bake, you get a little toasted pecan on top.
Yeah.
And you put into it. So,
Mhm.
and you can play with that. If you can crush them, or you can just lay them flat
Sure.
as
sure.
with the halves, or maybe use the halves and make like a decoration. You know, it's up to you.
So based on what you've said so far, this number one has got to be amazing.
It's got to be huge.
'Cause your list
It's gotta
so
be
far has been-
huge.
So,
far has been
you know, I some people might think it's too basic. Or
Are we going to number 2 next anyway?
That was number 2.
Oh, that was number 2.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
wow.
number 2. Yeah.
We're,
Yeah, we're flying through.
we're
the pie.
flying through
Yeah,
it, man.
yeah,
Jeez.
You know, number 1 is, and the reason why it's my number 1 is because there's so many variations,
Mhm.
but this variation specifically is my nemesis.
Oh.
Okay.
Because I
Oh
love it.
no.
I love it, and I want it to be good, but I have yet to be happy. I have yet to be happy with any
Oh,
iteration of
okay.
this that I've made.
Oh
So-
no.
The thing that I like to do, if I have to pick one pie that I'm going to make to impress people,
Okay.
I'm going to make an apple pie. However,
Okay. All right.
specifically
Yes.
an apple crumb pie with the crumble topping.
Yes.
For some reason, I have difficulty with the crumble topping. It either becomes some kind of weird, like melted, like amalgamation.
Oh no.
It looks too dusty and sandy. I haven't got the texture just right. But the pie itself is always great. You could do classic Granny Smith apple. It's a great
Sure.
it's a great,
Sure.
The
apple
best
to
apple. The best apple.
You can't go wrong with the Granny Smith. I agree.
No, you can't.
Mm.
You can't.
But what I find is if you get a nice mix of the Honey Crisp and a Pink Lady,
Ooh.
You get the sweet and
Okay.
tart.
Right.
I'm a
get
big,
sweet
I'm
and
a big
tart.
fan of the Honeycrisp, and
Right,
I've heard
right.
great things about the Pink Lady. I've seen it before at the farmers market, and I've always wanted to
Yeah.
give it a shot.
Yeah, you get a little mix of the sweet and the tart,
Nice.
and that's
Nice.
something that I'm a big fan of. And yeah, you mix those up and you make that your apple filling. So
Mm.
Wow.
yeah,
All right.
the apple crumble pie. You got to have that crumb topping. And one day,
One
I
day.
will, right,
One day you will nail
one
it.
day
One
I'll
day
get
you
it.
will nail it.
Yes.
Nail it.
And when I do, it will be the classiest of pies that has ever existed.
All right.
Only
so,
the classiest for the classy wrestler.
Oh, absolutely. Great top five. Great idea for a top five. Like everything about it was just spot on. Brings up two questions. Number one, how does someone as yourself get into baking pies? Where does this all start for you?
Right.
So I love pies. I think that's
Sure.
that's something that I look forward to on the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
I was visiting home, and I felt like I was an adult. I need to contribute more to the prepping of holiday dinner
Sure.
because my mom always would do everything.
Right.
And I think I told her, I was like, Mom, I'm going to take care of the pies. I'm going to take care of the pies. I'm going to make the crust. I'm going to do it all. It's going to be from scratch,
Wow.
Mom. I'm doing it all from scratch. Okay,
There
we're
you
going to
go.
do this. And she was like, okay.
Yeah, right.
And she went into the pantry. She pulled out the old cookbook that's been like, I don't know, either it's so old or maybe it was my grandma's, but the pages are falling out.
Came over on the
Some of
Mayflower.
the
Yeah,
some
exactly.
of the pages are falling out of the cookbook. Some of the pages are faded.
Sure.
But she was like, there's a crust recipe right there.
Do
Have
it.
at it.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm not helping you at all. If you're gonna do this, you gotta do this. And I remember
You have to do it.
struggling with the crust and being like,
Right.
Mom, I can't. She's like, don't ask me, figure it out. I'm like, no, Mom, no, I have the crust. I have the crust. I just can't get it into the pan. Like I can't get it into the pie pan.
Oh no.
She's like, why not? Like it's not. I can't. I pick it up, it starts to fall apart, or
Yeah.
like it won't
Right.
roll up and then unroll. And she's like, you better figure it out because I'm not helping you.
You got to figure it out. You.
Merciless.
You.
So
Merciless. At
No
holidays
mercy.
yet.
yeah,
No
yeah.
mercy.
So that first night of baking pies, I decided two things. I like baking pies, and I'm only going to make the crusts if I really, really like somebody or I'm trying to
There
impress
you go.
somebody.
Gotcha.
Right.
Because nowadays I'll just be like, look, I'm not doing these crusts. This is too much work. If I'm gonna do something, if I'm really looking to impress somebody, then I'm gonna do a crust. And
Yep.
you know what? We're probably getting some lattices involved too. So
Lattice, dude, gotta go with the lattice. That's how you get the classy.
I'm trying
Classy.
to get really good at crusts, and I would like to be, every year I think somebody will post some Facebook page or a link to an Instagram of all the different fancy crusts and lattices on top of pies.
Right.
And I'll just go, one day I'll do it.
I can do that.
Day.
One day
I will be able to do it one day.
There will be like the classy pie Instagram,
Yeah.
and then we'll see all the toppings that I can do.
See, I had a very similar moment because every year somebody posts, one of those pictures of those perfect looking pies on,
Yeah.
Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and I look at that and I'm like, one day I will eat that. Like, one day I will have that pie.
One day that will be mine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so now that we know how you got into the pie baking, here's the big question. So it's Food Network. It's the Holiday Pie Baking Championship. It's round number 1, and they say, all right, make us the pie that best represents you. What are you gonna make them?
Good one.
Oh man,
one.
Honestly, I think I'm gonna have to go with an apple pie, but because it's Food Network and it's high stakes, I probably won't do the crumble topping unless I've perfected it.
Well, yeah, you gotta make sure that you got it down first.
But if they're asking me tomorrow or this year,
Sure.
I would probably not do the crumble, but it would be apple.
Apple pie best represents you.
Apple, right?
It's an American classic,
Yeah.
and with the way I do it, with the sweet and tart, it's like you know what, this bite is going to be a nice mix of both, and I can be really sour or I can be really sweet. It just depends on how much I
Right.
like.
Yep.
I can see it now. The judges are going to take a bite. And they're going to look at it and they're going to say, you know what? That is one classy pie.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
That's all I
this
need.
is man. You have no idea how much you tapped into like our other loves here.
Yeah, right.
On Opinion City, pulling out the top 5
Nice.
pies. That's phenomenal. So before we wrap things up here, now that we've got your awesome top 5, and we know we'll be talking about
Amazing.
pies forever, but
Yeah.
we're gonna look at some upcoming events. All right.
Well, why don't you tell us what you got on tap? Oh, classy one.
So we touched on it briefly. Turkey Slam,
Yes.
Monster Factory, MFPW. It will be November 18th.
Mm-hmm.
I still have to double check. I might be appearing in Delaware.
Oh.
Okay.
I still have to follow up with that. But that would hopefully that will be 1CW. Hopefully that will be in December. We'll see.
Okay.
But we also have one last fight at the Monster Factory, which is December 16th.
Oh.
And that's
Okay.
one last fight, last show of the year.
Yeah.
Mm.
Possibly wrapping up any potential storylines or starting new ones. You know,
Right.
It's always a good show. It's always a good show.
Sounds like it's like your season premiere, if you will.
Yeah. Some people look at excuse me. Some people look at Turkey Slam as the culmination of the year's events, and then
Right.
December is kind of like the epilogue, but also a preview of the next year.
Right.
Yeah. Well, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, if you want to follow Max on socials, he is at Classy Wrestler. You can follow him there and find out everything he's doing. And of course, Monster Factory's on socials at 4Monster Factory, and you can
Yep.
see not only what Max is doing at the Monster Factory, but what all they've got coming up.
Yeah.
And so this was a lot of fun to start off our Monster Factory month here in November.
Yeah.
Our Monster Factory series.
Keeping it classy.
Yeah, we definitely picked the right wrestler for week number 1, because this was a lot of fun. It was great to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah.
Get our listeners to be able to learn a little bit more about you and just what exactly makes Max Sterling classy.
Exactly.
Thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. It was a lot of fun, and you are always welcome here. I'm sure
Yeah.
we will be having you back again, because this was a good time. So we appreciate
Absolutely.
you giving us your time today. Good luck with everything you've got going, and we will see you soon.
Absolutely. And remember, stay classy.
Stay classy.
Always.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun, man.
That was a lot of fun.
That was a really good episode. I'm
Very,
glad we started off with him,
classy
because
episode,
it
if you
was,
will.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 100% classy. So with that is going to wrap up this week's episode of Opinion City. Of course, we want to thank Max Sterling, Classy Wrestler, for his time today, and we want to thank you guys for
Yes.
listening. You can follow us on social media at Opinion City Pod. Email us at opinioncitypod@gmail.com. And please don't forget to like, share, and review us Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to check out past episodes of Opinion City and let us know your opinions on those topics as well as this week's topic. Be sure to follow us, Max Sterling and the Monster Factory, on social media, and check out Total Wrestling Live each and every Friday night, 8 p.m. on YouTube, or just go to the factory. It's not far. Figure it
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah.
This has been a Mancast Network production, and we will see you next week when we talk to the coach, the owner, man, myth, and legend himself, Danny Cage. Opinion City. Signing off.
This is Ultimo Ann here. You're listening to Opinion City Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Happy trail